never want to take your time for granted, so we'll jump in if you're okay with that. Perfect. What do we? Oh yeah.
I hope you just record that part. That's the opening note. Everyone sing along with this tone.
What do we do? Ready for Kirk and John sing along.
That's right.
So we are in episode 6 in a new series, but with the same old people. I mean, Welcome to And Also, a podcast for the rest of the week. My name is John. I'm the lead pastor at Faith Alliance Church, and I'm joined each week by Kirk Steigler. He and I take a deeper dive into the previous week's message, and we look into the concepts and the scripture and the ideas that made up that message and work to apply them into our lives. We don't want to just talk about things that happened on Sunday. We want to talk about things that happened on Sunday that make a difference in our lives on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and through the rest of the week. So join us as we have a dialogue about what really matters in life, a life faithful to Christ, and how we can apply the things that were said in community in order for us to live and lead changed lives in our world. We are now in episode 6 of And Also, a podcast for the rest of the week. Kirk and I are here as always.
Hello.
Good to see you. We can see each other because we're on a Zoom call, but we just provide the audio because, really no one wants to sit and...
No one needs to see this.
No one really wants to sit and watch us sit in our chairs and talk to each other. So at least if you're listening, you can, do other things.
When we get older, it'll be more fun. We'll find a park bench somewhere with some pigeons, and then that's when it'll be really fun.
That's what it'll just slowly decline to insanity. But that's when it'll be interesting. So we are in this new series. Again, this is a form of an introduction, just so everyone, not just you and I, but everyone, the plethora of listeners, are on the same page. Called Origin Story, where we are taking the book of Genesis and going character by character. So, because we record this every other week, last week was Genesis 1 and the character of God. This week was Genesis 3 and the characters of Adam and Eve, though inclusive in that is the serpent, the crafty serpent, and God himself as well. So the only thing I'll do to kick us off is to point out the three different actions that the scripture gives us, that they ate, they clothed themselves, and they hid. So just as a means of reminder, kind of coalescing around a point, that's where I'll begin. But beyond that, I've actually been interested to hear what you've been thinking over the last couple of weeks since we haven't recorded for the series yet.
Just first off, this is a building block piece, right? This is a cornerstone piece of Judeo-Christian just understanding. And we start off with talking animals. Right off the bat, we are talking to a snake who apparently we've been talking to all the other animals, but this one is crafty. I love that they introduce it as that, just matter of fact. But the snake is the craftiest. Oh, what was going on with like the zebra or the orangutan? Everybody else is just, they're very casual. They stick for themselves.
And the possum is the dumbest of all animals. I mean, it's like...
Yeah. It's just such a funny introduction. But this guy's up to something. And the only other place that I can think of in the Bible that even talks about a talking animal, what was it, Balaam's donkey?
Yep.
He's beating on his donkey because he's like, go this way, and the donkey can see an angel and it's like, I'm trying to save us.
Right. Yeah.
And what are you hitting me for? So it takes an event like that, but it's just that introduction that the snake is talking and people are cool with it. That is awesome. I just like that right off the bat.
Well, it's interesting that doesn't become like a larger part of it, and I'm sure you know I've read plenty of commentary on Genesis 3, both positive and negative. You know, where that part where the serpent was the craftiest of all animals and is speaking to Eve, that just is quickly accepted.
Yeah,
No.
that's how
Now,
it goes.
now it is interpreted as Satan, like as you get into the New Testament understanding of the Old Testament, the New Testament defines the Old Testament uh, with Genesis 3, the talking snake being Satan, but still being that, and that's why I said that in the beginning, being that and you said it's a cornerstone of Judeo-Christian understanding, and just even Western civilization, that Genesis 3 and the serpent was crafty, and he said, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and off we go. Yeah.
What
but
did
then
he
no
say?
other animal talks for a long time. It's a ripoff. I want to talk to the rest of them.
What did they say?
Yeah.
All right, so good. We got talking snakes. Excellent.
Yeah, that's also kicks it off really. That's beautiful. And prior to now, we had man who had been given the responsibility of naming everything, which I love, because it isn't until after this event that Adam names his wife. It was after this that it lists that he names his wife. So it took until this event. They were kicking around together.
He's like, I'm busy naming the animals. I'll get to you later.
Or, I can't think of a good name for you. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
It's just that part's funny to me. But it's just such a great representation of the natural foibles of humanity. Like all encapsulated in one goofy little moment. Like, oh well, guy is just staggering around eating. He doesn't care. He's just wandering the garden eating, thinking of names, because that's what guys do. Everyone's got a nickname for somebody, right?
I'll name you Sport, and I'll name you Champ, and I'll name you Tiger. Hey, Tiger.
Exactly. It's just kind of a funny kickoff. And then, you'll fall asleep for a little while. You'll wake up. There'll be somebody made from you. Looks almost like you. Right? Your short one rib. Right? I love that. And that's the person that you can't come up with a name for? Other me. What
other me.
Better looking me. I don't know what. It's just really funny. I love that takes a lot to get to a name for her. Right? That's awesome. Really funny.
Oh, that's funny.
But what an amazing, and as you put it, and every parent gets to see it. It is that child rearing moment, right? That whole episode is such a perfect child rearing moment.
Yeah. Where
God walks in, and it's like you walk in the room and you see the flashlight go out, right, in the bedroom at night. Were you reading in bed? No. Really? Are you sure? Where are you? Like you don't know, right? Where are you? I hid myself. We know that. How come? How come you did that?
Tell me.
Well, and then the finger pointing, right? Wasn't me.
If it wasn't so tragic, it's honestly really funny. Like the whole thing, like, like, where are you? Well, we hid. You're like, oh, really? Like, okay, Adam just like, okay, Captain, obviously, of course you hid. We see, like, I see that. And then, the whole blame shifting thing, it's honestly, it's funny, more like it's funny, haha, to be honest, but it's also funny, like, familiar. It's a funny because it's, comedians who do stand up and you're like, oh, I've experienced that. So you're funny because I can relate to what you're saying. and like all the blame shifting and stuff. I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. It's just so to me it's so humorous. If it wasn't tragic, it would be just excellent comedy.
Yeah, and to this day, I think lots of comedians have spoken about it. But there's a lot that happens all at once. You don't hear the guy talking, right? Adam doesn't say much here, and I'm picturing him just kind of wandering around chewing on stuff. Let me try one of these. Try one of these. He's just eating. That's it. And so the wife drags him along. Hey. Says, surely I won't die. So that makes me wonder what made her say, really? And probably not then. Did they see something else eating it?
When they opened their eyes and they could see good and evil, do you think that was because of the fruit or the action? Where do you think the emphasis was? Like the act of eating caused it, or the fruit itself caused it?
That's an interesting question. If later on the concern is that there is a tree that allows for eternal life, and they didn't want the people to get to that one since they were now sinful. And ignorance was bliss until that moment, right? So until they made the choice to disobey, they made the choice to disobey. Prior to that, everything they'd done was neither good nor evil, right? They were just bumming around. Now they were suddenly aware. And that awareness, they looked at each other and were like, gosh darn it, we have no pants. Like, quick to the fig leaves. Well, these look scratchy. Let's weave them together. Why would you do that? But you're in a hurry. You're in a hurry. There are two human beings on the planet, and one is made from you, and you are embarrassed. That's also funny to me. That's
interesting. That there's and I actually, and I point this out, but I always find that just how quickly they get reduced to embarrassment and shame. Like it just kind of moves into, like, as soon as they recognize, it's like it's just on this steep decline. And then not even to mention, like, once you get into the story of civilization, you get into Cain and Abel, and that's just a bloodbath. I mean, like, and I'm going to be preaching on that this week. I mean, Cain and Abel's just like, it's terrible. And so you get, like, it's almost like, okay, we eat the fruit, we start hiding, shame's introduced, and then we quickly move to murder. I mean, like, it doesn't take very long before these just horrendous things start happening. And so I find, like, this and again the timing, it's obviously not all immediate, but still that concept of, and I think the real wisdom in Genesis 3 is the to me, the accuracy in which it depicts the human condition of, like, how quickly we get reduced to shame, embarrassment, and just based on, even more so, it's not like, you're right, it's not like they were in a crowd of people, it's just the two of them.
The interesting thing too is that there's a specificity about its location, right? It's the garden versus the dust and the field, right, and so on, that there are also mentioned. So the garden is a specific location where they're hanging out, and
it's at the crossroads of rivers. It names the river. Mm-hmm. So there are other places that are not the garden. We know, and that, I mean, you're right. That's so they're obviously kind of encompassed in a geographical area. Yeah,
that's fascinating to me. The other part of that story at that point that is fascinating is God's response to seeing the fig leaves. Like, you can hear him smack his forehead. Right? You see him go,
So you've got the whole garden and you used fig leaves?
The fig leaves. Well, at least you didn't go for the poison ivy. That's good. But somebody's gonna write in, but poison ivy came later. But yeah, that aside, um, the immediate response is that he provides skins.
Yes.
Which means that somebody lost their skins.
Yes.
Which also means that was okay. People were, the people were, that was not shocking for them. They were like, yep, that's how that goes.
Better than
we
fig
do that. Yep. Whoo, this is way cushier. All right. Yeah. Sorry, yak or whatever it was.
Yeah. Must have been yak. Well, that to me, I didn't. Again, the Genesis 3 is so much. It's hard to bring everything up, but that I find to be a really interesting part, because they've done the one thing God told them not to do. God curses them appropriately, but there's still this weird hope, like intermingled in the the image of the snake biting the heel and so on. But then he makes them clothing, and so, but then kicks them out of the garden. And so even in God having to mete out justice, which he does, he's still like, I'm not going to make you go out there in the fig leaves. I'm going to give you something a little bit better.
Yeah, and that's just not going to cut it in a few minutes.
Yeah, and I like that. It's kind of like all right, here, I'm angry. Justice has to be met, but I'll make sure you look good and that you are comfortable, better than these fig leaves. So it's just like that little line, I think, speaks a lot to the character of God in my estimation. Just that, like, God is, even in him having to do what he has to do, he still is generous in the way that he does it by saying, all right, yeah. But it is interesting, yeah, because you're right. Whatever animal it was, the animal obviously had to die for it, and so that and that may have not been out of the ordinary for them. I mean, it wasn't. Once we get to Cain and Abel, it wasn't.
Right.
That was normal.
Yeah, that's the part that's also what if further down, after the the list of here's what everyone's getting for their punishments. When you can hear the discussion between the Trinity, we gotta shut this down. It sounds like it's been more than a few minutes. It sounds like it's been a few days, and then they're like, you know what? We got to get these guys out of here before they stumble into this. So the garden was big. They wandered around. They had favorite fruit that apparently they were focused on and didn't pay attention to these other ones until the serpent tells them, you probably won't die. I like that. Surely you won't die.
Surely you won't. Well, you
won't die. Well, but he said, don't touch it. Don't go near it. It sounds like a food allergy if ever there was one. But all right.
But let's see what happens. What happens when you drink this milk that's expired? It's like, I don't know. Let's find out. Surely it'll be just fine.
Yeah. But in any case, that later on, the fact that they're raising livestock.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a major skip forward from grazing to raising livestock. That's huge. And if raising livestock, for what purpose? Right? To consume, I would suspect. So if you're raising livestock to consume, when did that start? We didn't even get that definition anywhere along the way. We went from eating fruit off the trees in the garden, everything's cool, walking around unaware, and suddenly we're aware, and we're eating cows or something.
Well, and there's civilization too. Like in Genesis 4, I'd have to look there, but once you get into the Cain and Abel stuff, time has passed. There's civilization, there's livestock, and with livestock, if you're raising livestock, that's technological development. That's fencing and systems for providing food and so on. I mean, there's technology that's had to have been developed since that time. So there's this leap that happens in between where we get all of a sudden like, oh wow, there's people and technology to a degree and animal raising, and then
Yeah.
sacrificial systems are in place,
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, I guess like leap forward in time.
Well, it's a leap forward in time to us because that part of the story isn't explained. Like
Right,
it
correct,
isn't
right.
whole history, right? It's a moment when things go awry
Yeah.
and the punishment that happens, and we're left with the rest of the guests about what happened because oh, okay, now archaeologists have to go find out. Thanks for not telling us, but we'll figure it out, I guess, later. But yeah.
Well, and actually, that's like, and I this could be a rabbit hole, and I'm gonna try and not go there, but only for time's sake. But that's an interesting thought that speaks to the way that the Hebrews would have understood time in the Old Testament. So we've gone through. We're very westernized. Obviously, we're our understanding aligns more with New Testament, the kind of Greek thinking. We've been through the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. Like, so we think in terms of oftentimes in terms of chronology, right? Like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and that's just how we end up. That's how we end up thinking. And the Old Testament, they wouldn't have cared as much as we do. Like their mindsets would have been so different. They would have looked at the Genesis 1-3, that narration, and then they would have looked at this moment with Cain and Abel, and that there's been all this time that's elapsed and so on, and they wouldn't have even blinked at it. They would have been like, well, no, this is just when God interacted with Cain and Abel, and it shows us this about who God is, and this about who humans are. And I think it highlights the difference between what we think, how we think, and how the writers who would have been writing at the time thought. Because again, I look at them and been like, hey, what happened? Like what Genesis did, like that's a chapter difference, and there's all this stuff that's elapsed that we're not given privy to. But the Hebrew writers, I don't think, would have even cared.
Yeah, but at that point too, I suppose logging day to day, got up, ate more fruit, went back to bed. Would have been boring too to read for days and days.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Had an idea what to do with this animal now. Okay, try it tomorrow. Good night.
Stripy one, zebra. That's what I'm calling it, zebra. Other orange stripy one, tiger. That was big day. Separated stripy things.
I named 2 animals today. Banner day for me.
Yeah. Woo. Back to fruit.
That's
Dear diary.
We had a new fruit for dinner tonight.
I think Eve might be up to something. I mean, what is that? Actually, the part that I really kind of like in the start of the story is just how off to the side Adam is. Like prior to this point, we read that God and Adam are interacting. They're talking, walking, hanging out, but saying what? Not a lot. But then this big crucial moment happens. Nothing. Not till the finger pointing. And he's the first one being asked stuff too. Like, you were responsible for this. You were in charge.
I actually, it's the one that you gave to me. That's who's responsible. Yeah.
My clone. I can't. I don't know.
All right, sir. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have Cain and Abel, and then Palm Sunday will be the next time we record, the week after Palm Sunday, and I'm preaching on a Palm Sunday text. So I don't know which one yet, but the Palm Sunday text. I just don't know which gospel. So we'll talk about both Cain and Abel and Palm Sunday,
and the rocks crying out.
And the rocks crying out. Yeah, that's a good text.
Which, when you think about it, it gets back to Cain and Abel with the ground crying out.
Oh, look at you! That was good connection. Well, that we're gonna have to save for next time. That's awesome. And thank you for the heads up on the next 2 weeks of preaching. I'll be thinking about that.
You're welcome.
All right, sir. Have a great week. I'll see you later.
See you later. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Talk to you later.